Hey guys, Magnus here, bringing you another Walking Dead character video. This one will be on a big one. We will be discussing the resident Dr. Siddiq, lover to Rosita, the father of Socorro, aka Coco. Siddiq is of course male. He is played by Avi Nash. He is mid-30s and first appeared in Mercy. Before the apocalypse, Siddiq was raised Muslim by his parents, being taught about Islam and the Quran. Siddiq had a flute as a child and eventually went to medical school, performing free surgeries. After the outbreak began, Siddiq's parents both were bitten and died. He spent his time trapping walkers and killing them, believing it would release their souls, something his mother fought. In Season 8, Siddiq talks to himself as he looks for food. He is held by gunpoint by Carl. Rick comes out of nowhere and scares him off by firing his gun. Siddiq kills trapped walkers in the woods and talks with Carl, who apologizes for the past events. He throws them some food and they travel back to Alexandria. On the way, they find some walkers and decide to kill them with knives in honor of Siddiq's mother, and they go back to Alexandria. Siddiq is sneaked through the sewers. Him and Carl chat, eat, and spend some time together. Siddiq later feels guilty as Carl reveals he was bitten whilst helping him. Siddiq gives Rick medicine, reveals he is a doctor, and is welcomed into the group. Siddiq leaves Alexandria with Daryl and the others, finding a swamp and crossing it. Later he arrives at the hilltop. He thanks Maggie and is sent to be the good old doctor of the hilltop for a bit. Siddiq visits the infirmary and is met by Dana, the Kingdom Doctor. She scolds him for his lack of experience, but he stands his ground. During the attack, Siddiq helps Tobin, is nearly killed by Rick, and then later tries to talk to him about Carl and discovers a walker, Katie, and the escaped prisoners. Rick talks to Siddiq about Carl's death. Later he joins the militia on the fight against the Saviors. When Rick cuts Negan's throat, Siddiq saves his life. Later he is present in the infirmary when Rick taunts him. During the time skip, Siddiq rose up to be the resident doctor for all the communities. Sometime during this, he treated Jocelyn and enjoyed a bonfire with the new arrivals, later watching Michonne and Daryl return with the missing kids. In Season 9, Siddiq goes on a mission to DC. He is attacked by a walker covered in spiders, which he has a fear of, but he's cool. He helps hoist Zeke up from some walkers and has to sleep in the sanctuary. On the way back, the wagon gets stuck, Ken gets bit, Siddiq tries to save him, but he's a goner. Siddiq watches as Enid stitches Cindy's hand, slowly training her. During the 6-year skip, he fully trained Enid and began a short romance with Rosita, and joined the Alexandrian Council. Siddiq treats Yumiko after the skip and listens as Magnus' group give their backstory. Siddiq updates them on Yumiko, telling them he was also found in the woods. Siddiq goes on the journey to bring them to the hilltop even. At night he hears a noise, Michonne breaking Luke's instrument. Siddiq tries to convince Michonne to come with them, and she doesn't want to. Some walkers arrive, and they are dealt with, and Siddiq also reveals to Michonne that Maggie is gone. Some hilltoppers tell Michonne about Rosita being injured, and she decides to go to the hilltop. Siddiq drops his weapons with the others and arrives inside. He checks with Enid on Rosita's condition, and later he says sorry to Michonne for holding secrets. Siddiq watches Jesus' body being brought back, treats Eugene, and Rosita reveals to him she's pregnant with his baby. Later he is at Jesus' funeral. Siddiq is present at the council meeting and later talks with Gabriel and Rosita about the upcoming child. At the fair, Siddiq watches Zeke's speech. Him and Enid teach some training, and he is kidnapped by Alpha. Ozzy and co arrive to help everyone at the barn, and they fight back, but they're eventually subdued. Siddiq is forced to watch by Dante, not known to him at the time to be Dante, as Alpha kills all of his friends one by one in front of him. He is found by Michonne and co tied to a tree and sees the heads on spikes, possibly putting some of them down. Later he gives a speech to the communities telling them to remember the dead as heroes. Several months after, it's winter and Siddiq takes shelter from the blizzard. Negan taunts him and Gabriel, and they eventually have to evacuate the house. The next day he treats Negan's leg injury. During the skip, Coco is born and Siddiq cares for her. He also meets Dante and begins to work with him. In Season 10, Siddiq begins to gain PTSD from the barn massacre. He discusses the Whisperer mask in a council meeting. He later talks with Dante and has a few breakdowns. Later he helps put out a fire at the crash site. Siddiq helps kill the walkers who are crashing into Alexandria. During a meeting, he has another PTSD episode and storms out. Siddiq sees Eugene storm out of Rosita and has a drink with Dante, who tells him about his past life. He soon has more flashbacks and checks on a dead Margot, causing him to have another episode, putting his face in some cold water. Siddiq questions Gade and Alfred about the attack on Lydia and decides to decide in the morning. Siddiq heads to the hilltop to help out. He treats him injured and discovers Zeke's growing cancer, saying they can treat it. Siddiq radios with Dante, who informs of Rosita's stomach bug, and he heads back. Siddiq goes to the infirmary to see the sick. Dante tells him it'll be okay and to spend time with Coco. Siddiq finds Rosita real and takes her to the infirmary. He finds more sick and gets mad at Dante for not telling him. Siddiq comforts Cheryl and holds Coco, sleepwalking to the lake and windmill area. Siddiq has another episode waking up in the infirmary. He tends to Cheryl, who's made her peace with death. He checks on Rosita, seeing Alpha in the window, which is in his head. He then dreams of a hand grabbing him. Creepy. Siddiq and Dante tend to a Whisperer Carol has captured, who recognizes Siddiq from the barn. Soon the Whisperer prisoner dies due to the wrong medicine. Dante says he used it because Siddiq packed it. He finds Cheryl has died and jumps in the lake due to his PTSD occurring again. Rosita jumps in and saves him, and they talk. Siddiq realizes the water is making people sick and discovers a tampered lever. At night, Siddiq gazes out the window and Dante arrives and talks to him. Dante clicks his mouth and Siddiq remembers the same click from the Whisperer who made him watch, figuring out Dante is a spy and the one who made him watch everyone be beheaded. He tries to go for an axe, but Dante overpowers him, and this happens to Siddiq. Siddiq dies and later turns. As Rosita and Dante fight, he goes to eat Coco, but Rosita stabs him in the head. He is later buried in Alexandria. Siddiq was a cool character. I found the performance by the actor a little stiff at times, but overall I was beginning to love the character. And then he died. Typical Walking Dead. Siddiq went from a fearful loner to one of the most important members of the community, and his death was sudden and shocking. Anyway guys, that is it for Siddiq. Tell me your thoughts on the character. Next up will be Margot. I know that I had a few requests. Don't worry, I will get to them eventually. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next one. Goodbye.